Welcome, guys, to another episode of the Level X Podcast. My name is Jesus.
And your boy David is here.
Thank you so much for tuning in today. Before we get started, this episode will be sponsored by Instant Web Celeb. Instant Web Celeb has been assisting to revolutionize the online social world and has helped countless customers rank higher in status and fame across multiple platforms. Optimize and market your social media page today with IWC Instant Web Celeb. So go follow them on their Instagram. Go follow them. Not follow them, but go visit their website.
Go give them that quick Facebook like.
Now, it is time. It is episode 4 of the Level X Podcast. And man, what a journey. So if you follow us on our Twitter account, you saw that we actually tweeted out, we're changing up the format of the Level X Podcast. Change is something that we talk about a lot here on the Level X Podcast. We're saying we're very young, so expect to see a lot of rearranging and a lot of almost just experimenting with the format, because honestly, guys, we're just trying to give you guys the best product possible. We're trying to fill your guys' life with knowledge and also more entertainment. We don't necessarily want this to be a podcast where you know what to expect. So we don't want it to become dull or anything like that. So David, if you could inform these lovely people, what is this new formatting change that we're talking about here?
Well, the new format change, as you guys probably, if you guys were constant listeners of our new podcast, initially how we started was we talked about the books that we read during the week. And then from there, we just talked about those, basically summarized the books, which is cool. And then from there, we jump into what we call our entertainment section. So by entertainment, we mean, things that are happening in pop culture, as well as sports, just a bunch of entertainment news, and just talking about that as well. And then finally, we will wrap it up with our seduction section, where we basically talked about us going and approaching girls and just talking about our experiences there. However, like Jesus was saying, we are young, so we like experimenting with things, and sometimes things don't really feel natural.
Yeah.
And I think that segment or that format felt a little unnatural to me, or I was feeling some type of unnaturalness to it. And then that's when you said, well, we should change it to this, and I agreed. So basically how we're going to do it now is we're still going to keep the book section in the beginning.
Yep.
Because we love reading, and we love basically telling you guys about the topics that we read about.
Yeah.
And that gives you guys a lot of knowledge, hopefully, and that at least gives you guys more of a reason to read. And then from there, we're going to be jumping into basically our free-for-all. And by free-for-all, basically, we're going to just give you guys a good time, because I know that some of you guys maybe hear this while you guys are driving. Sometimes you guys are just hearing it after a long day of work or school or whatever. So I know you guys need that time to decompress instead of getting jammed by more knowledge and knowledge and knowledge and knowledge. So it gets a little, you get a little bombarded too much, and you don't want to hear the podcast anymore. So the free-for-all is basically us just goofing around and just talking about things that we want to talk about.
Mostly things that we found interesting,
Yeah, so it could be, it could be knowledgeable things. It could be like things about seduction, or things about, like sports. Just basically anything goes, but it isn't like necessarily like an exact format that we follow,
or like it's not like an exact category, like, oh, we're only going to discuss sports, or we're only going to discuss entertainment. It's basically pretty much anything that we found interesting in the past week. That's what we're going to discuss and share with you guys.
So I hope you guys are excited for this week's episode of the Level X Podcast. I know I am. But this week I actually did read another book. I haven't finished it, but I am reading a new book. I think I gave you guys a hint
teaser
last week, which I always do, of course. But I am still reading it. And the book is called Thinking Strategically by Avinash Dixit. Avinash is like an Indian American economist. And then the book is also kind of co-written by Barry Nailbuff. He's basically a professor from Yale University on economics. So as you guys probably can guess, this book is about economics and more about thinking strategically, which kind of refers to in economics game theory. And if you guys don't know what game theory is basically an entire subject in economics where not only are you trying to get the best option for you, but you have to take into account other scenarios as well as other people, because in this real world, as you know, Jesus, there's a lot of competition. So game theory is basically finding out the best strategy to get the best results when there's competition involved, when there's different scenarios, when there's humans involved. So different subjects within game theory. So I'm gonna basically sum them down for you when I give you guys my summary of what I've read so far. But what book have you been reading, Jesus?
I've been reading Tribes by Seth Godin. If you guys know of Seth Godin, I don't really know. We're gonna go with Godin today. So if you guys are familiar with Seth Godin, he jumped onto the scene with his book Lynchpin. So I don't know why I decided to read Tribes over Lynchpin. I guess I just like the title as well as the book art or the cover of the book. It just looked cooler. So I read Tribes by Seth Godin. He's a pretty good author. So aside from Tribes, go check out his other work, man. But if you're giving me the permission to basically jump into my summary,
yeah, man,
I'm going to go ahead and do it, man.
Go ahead.
Even if you don't give me permission, I'm going to go ahead and still do it. So Tribes by Seth Godin. What can I say about this book? Now, to sum it down in one sentence, I guess, the way I describe this book is basically the entry level to entrepreneurship. So in this book, I consider it almost like a persuasive book, because I think he's trying to inspire you, the reader, to become a leader and to pretty much find your own tribe. That's what the book is about, tribes. So you might be asking, like, well, what is a tribe? So he describes a tribe as a group of people connected to one another, connected to a leader, and connected to an idea. Pretty much, a tribe is anything that involves a group of people being led by someone. So he used the example, Steve Jobs had a tribe of people who loved his products. Bands, for example, let's say, the Stones, they had a tribe of people who loved listening to their music and their message. So that's basically a tribe. A tribe could consist of anything, but the one main aspect that is similar from all tribes is that they all have a leader. That's where the book really starts to kick it into high gear, when it talks about becoming a leader and what leadership is. I'm going to go ahead and just go step by step on what the book covers. So after he describes what tribes are, he goes to say that tribes are also about faith, about belief in an idea and in a community, and they are grounded in respect and admiration for the leader of the tribe and for other members as well. You might be asking, that's the whole book right there. But it really isn't, because in today's society, there's not a lot of leaders out there. There's not a lot of.
You don't think so?
Nah, man. I think a lot of people, like Seth also says, a lot of people are sheep. They're just pretty much living day by day, not really trying to break out of the mold or break out of the pack. They're almost just like sheep, man. Just walking around like zombies, not really paying attention to their potential, not paying attention to even time, really.
Now, do you see it kind of like as to why that is in comparison to? Does it talk about that as well in the book?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna go into right now, because it pretty much says that in today's society, business owners, right? They're trying to get the cheapest labor possible, right? They're trying to preserve as much money as they can, so they're looking for cheap labor. We search for people who have already been trained to be sheep-like. He goes in to say that basically schools, they're teaching people how to become obedient sheep, to follow the rules of whatever employer they find.
So you're saying the valedictorian of the school is a sheep?
Yeah, man, pretty much. If you look at it, what did the valedictorian do? He found out how to pass his classes. How do you pass the classes? By paying attention to the teacher. By doing all the assignments that the teacher assigns to a team, man. They're doing 100% on all assignments. They're pretty much just stressing themselves out in order to appease the teacher and appease the institution.
But I thought you said last week that Mark Zuckerberg was valedictorian for his class.
I did not say that. No,
oh, no.
He probably wasn't, man. He probably wasn't. No, yeah. He was just wickedly smart. What I've come to find is that wickedly smart people are mostly just like slackers, man.
So you think he got bad grades? I'm assuming.
He did enough to pass his classes, is what I'm saying.
Okay.
I recently was talking to a friend of mine, and he was saying
what they say at school: C's get degrees.
No, well, that's actually true. That's very true, man. And even then, sometimes, like, I was in my class, and my professor was saying how the GPA system is like flawed and stuff, because
Yeah, but we're not going into that. We're not going.
No,
to
we are going. We are going into that, man, because pretty much if you look at it.
So you're saying
a lot of the, well, hold on, man. Let me talk.
So
let me talk.
Sanders,
well, no, what? Let me talk. He's saying how the GPA system is flawed because people who, let's say, have a 3.8 3.8 GPA, yeah, they could have a really high GPA, but look at the classes they're taking. They could be taking like freshman level classes like art 101 or some shit, or like stuff like that, man. That's what's getting them those really high grades. So even though they're quote unquote really smart because they have a high GPA, are they really, when they're taking like super easy classes that pretty much a freshman should be able to pass? Or we're assuming that this student is like a senior or something. So people like that have really high GPAs, but they're taking really easy classes. So that's where the system's flaws really are on display there. So that was pretty much my little tangent. But going back into the book, man, yeah, that's what at least that's what Seth is saying, man.
And you agree?
Yeah, I pretty much, well, I'm pretty open-minded, man. So if Seth is saying this, you know, I'm gonna go ahead and try to, I guess, think about it, man, because this guy's not saying this just to say it, man. He's really trying to send a message here. So I'm really open to that message. I do think it has some weight to it because pretty much in today's society, I think people are afraid of taking risks. So they're really just trying to make sure that they do have a job at the end of the day, that they are able to pay their bills. People want safety, man.
Yeah.
So that's what he wants to do, man. This is what this book is about. He wants to help you realize that you already have all the skills you need to make a huge difference, and he wants to sell you on doing it. Okay. He says the best thing is that you don't need to wait until you got exactly the right job or built the right organization or moved up 3 rungs on the corporate ladder. You can start right now. I love this quote because this is something that a lot of entrepreneurs say is don't ask for permission, ask for forgiveness. That's how change is made. A leader makes change, but change is frightening. And to many who would be leaders, it seems more of a threat than a promise. So yeah, I see where he's coming from that too, man. Because when you tell someone, oh well, here man, go start a movement, or here man, go start making money for yourself, it's gonna be really, really scary. So,
and I also did going into that, like talking about leadership.
Yeah,
there's actually this really, really dope TED Talks video about, I think, leadership. And it could probably potentially, and I doubt it, it could probably potentially be the author, but I'm not sure. I just know that I one time saw it, and it's basically talking about leadership, and it shows a video about, it's like it's at a like music festival.
Yeah,
and a guy just goes up and starts dancing by himself, and that guy's taking a risk because no one's doing it. It's just him. And then after that, he kind of grabs somebody, I think, from the floor, or someone just comes and starts dancing right next to him. And then after that, another one comes, starts dancing right next to them.
Yeah.
And then another one, and another one. Soon there's probably like 5-10 people dancing and then I think while the video is playing or whatever, the guy's saying how, I don't know if they're necessarily sheep or followers per se, but they kind of see that the majority of the people are dancing, and they don't want to be like left out and be like, well, I don't, because in the beginning they're saying that a leader is an outcast.
Yeah.
Because he has to take the risk first, he has to do this first. But then sooner or later, if you're not following the leader, then you turn yourself into an outcast. While before you were actually not an outcast. So it's kind of weird how that works. I don't know if it talks about that, but I thought it was interesting.
Yeah, but now that you brought that up, Seth also does mention how, you know, well, you're probably saying, well, I mean, all business owners weren't they leaders at first? Like, weren't they trying to create change? Well, they were, but a lot of businesses, they become stagnant, you know? That's why, let's say Apple's been on top for so long, because they continuously evolved and they brought in new innovations like every year, every 2-3 years. So that's why they're on top. But let's say the music.
Actually, yesterday they announced their first ever loss.
Well, that's why. Well, they're not bringing in innovation anymore. The market has spoken, right? So, but let's say the music industry, right? They were so stagnant for so long. They had this process and it worked, and they were happy with it. They were making so much money, and then what happened, man? They became stagnant because something new came, a change came. The internet. So they knew it was coming, man. The record industries knew that a change was coming, but they didn't act on it. So what happened? They lost so much money because they were late. They were late on the internet, and they fucked up. So
basically, this book is also saying not to fuck up.
It's saying to not become stagnant, man, to embrace change. But pretty much going back into the idea of a leader, it pretty much says if you want to grow, you need to find customers who are willing to join you or believe in you or donate to you or support you. And guess what? The only customers willing to do that are looking for something new. The growth comes from change and light and noise. Leaders make a ruckus. Ideas that spread grow, but people don't want boring ideas. Almost all the growth that's available to you exists when you aren't like most people and when you work hard to appeal to folks who aren't most people. It goes on to say that today individuals have more power than they ever had before. And obviously, you know that, David, that comes from the internet, that comes from technology, that comes from so many different places now that it's so easy for someone to basically just change the status quo. Look at Mark Zuckerberg, for example. He changed the status quo of freaking meeting people. So, take that as an example. So, yeah, one person can reinvent science or politics or technology. And the second thing you need to know is that the only thing holding you back from becoming the kind of person who changes things is this: a lack of faith. A lack of faith and a combination of fear. So, fear does so many things, man, but the main thing is that it's hold you back from your potential. The largest enemy of change and leadership isn't a no, it's a not yet. Not yet is the safest, easiest way to forestall change. So yeah, I can definitely see what Seth is saying here. People are like, I don't want to quit my job. I'm gonna wait 2 weeks or something, or I'm gonna wait 4 months until I can save enough money. That's pretty much saying a not yet. And it comes from fear, man. It says here it's not even from fear of failure, it's from fear of being criticized by other people. He brought up an example of his own book, man, that aside from Lynchpin, he's written these other books and people are reading them and they're criticizing them. Even like critics are criticizing them. But he's saying that it doesn't faze him, man, because at the end of the day, at least they noticed his books, So many other books out there, they're being ignored. But knowing that someone took the time to write a critique of his book, it actually makes him feel better because he knows, oh, that person took time to actually read my work. That person took time to actually notice something that I wrote. So, it's pretty cool. And aside from that, man, I would like to just read this little excerpt from the book because I thought this was so moving, man. He was writing in the first person. He said, it's 4 a.m. and I can't sleep. So I'm sitting in the lobby of a hotel in Jamaica checking my email. A couple walks by, obviously on their way to bed, having pushed the idea of vacation a little too hard. The woman looks over to me and in a harsh whisper, a little quieter than a yell, says to her friend, isn't that sad? That guy comes here on vacation and he's stuck checking his email. He can't even enjoy his 2 weeks off. I think the real question, the one they probably wouldn't want to answer was, isn't it sad that we have a job where we spend 2 weeks avoiding the stuff we have to do 50 weeks a year? It took me a long time to figure out why I was so happy to be checking my email in the middle of the night. It had to do with passion. Other than sleeping, there was nothing I'd rather been doing in that moment because I'm lucky enough to have a job where I get to make change happen. Even though I don't have many people working for me, I'm in the business of leading people and taking them somewhere they want to go. So, lastly, guys, the secret of leadership is simple. Do what you believe in, paint a picture of the future, go there. People will follow. The only thing that makes people in organizations great is their willingness to be not great along the way. The desire to fail on the way to reaching a bigger goal is the untold secret of success. So go out there, guys. Become a leader. There are tribes out there, waiting for you to lead them. Overall, this book, although not necessarily, it has its flaws. It doesn't really go in depth. Well, the way I rated it is like, it doesn't really teach you anything. Everything is pretty basic. Like there's not a lot of depth, but even Seth says that, this isn't going to be like a step-by-step on how to go find a tribe and lead it. But pretty much that's the point. It's mostly just meant to inspire you. It definitely inspired me, man. It gave me that drive to go out there and be passionate and go try to make a change in the world. So if you're like at a 9 to 5 or something like that right now and not necessarily want to quit, but you're like, oh, well, there's this fire growing inside of me. Definitely, I suggest you read Tribes by Seth Godin. Find a little inspiration in there because I definitely found it as well. I think this book isn't really meant for everyone. I would definitely, in my own opinion, give it like a 7 out of 10. But at the same time, I'm pretty new to the game. So it definitely still had a lot of value to provide me, and I enjoyed it, man. It wasn't a very long book. It was like 70 pages, but in those 70 pages, Seth definitely got his message across to me. So there's that. David?
Great summary there from Jesus. So now I'm gonna go into mine, the moment you guys have all been waiting for. Now I'm not gonna be reading from my book. I could probably tell you guys probably don't like me reading from a book and going into all that shit. So I'm just basically gonna tell you guys why I'm reading this book, the main points that I got from this book, because I want you guys to understand how I view things, and then hopefully you guys can be like, okay, I agree with you, or I don't agree with you. Oh well. So basically, my book, as I said before, Thinking Strategically: The Competitive Edge in Business, Politics, and Everyday Life by Avinash Dixit and Barry Nailbuff. Now this book is a 1990s book, 1991 specifically. So first of all, I hate old books. I'm not a big fan of them because I feel like most of the time they're written before like big technological advances have been implemented. So I feel like they're outdated most of the time. But since I am new to economics, this was definitely something interesting for me to tackle. The way I kind of choose my books is I created like an entire book list with over like 900 books, and then I categorized every single book into like separate sections, just so it could be easier for me to choose a book on a certain topic or a certain subject that I kind of lack knowledge in. I'm a big advocate for learning, as you guys can probably already tell. And so when I choose a book, I want to choose something that I'm not really knowledgeable in, just so I can expand, I guess, my reach in subjects that I'm either interested in or either knowledgeable in. So I think as a man, you should be a well-rounded man. And by that, I mean, you should read books that not necessarily that you kind of know much about. I think that by you being a well-rounded man, it turns you more into like not only super knowledgeable about different subjects or topics, but it also makes you more attractive to like a certain girl, I guess you can say. And by a certain girl, I mean like quality girls, because if you're gonna be going for girls that are that aren't like necessarily smart, that's a bad investment already, because then it turns boring and shit. And I feel as a guy, you will want a girl that kind of matches up with you, not only intelligent wise, but just basically in every other aspect. So I think you want a girl that can talk about kind of like politics or economics, or just basically connecting in that way. But basically, before I ramble on about that, this book, the book says, it is about thinking strategically, and I bet you guys are wondering, why do I need to learn about that? And then basically, the book, what I love about it is kind of like a introductory book for people that are going into either, like I said, game theory. Now, what I love about this book, and like I said, I am still reading the book, but what I love about this book is not only since it's introductory, but the authors actually give you guys a lot of case studies. And by case studies, they give you a lot of examples dealing with like sports, dealing with games, dealing with politics, or basically a lot of like examples that you would understand as a newcomer. And I think that I love that like a lot, because as someone that I have no experience when it comes to necessarily like economics. I mean, I did take some economic classes, in high school and some in college, but no in-depth economic classes. So then this book kind of gives you those case studies and you kind of understand them a little bit more. But like I was saying, game theory is applicable for any situation, because the book, how it starts is that everything in life is a decision, like whether who you want to marry, who you want to become business partners with, or should I raise my price for my product. All those are choices, and they basically interact with other people's choices. It's not just kind of like it brings up the topic of like a lumberjack compared to like a general. Like a lumberjack knows what it's going to do. It's going to be chopping off a wood. Like it gets its axe, it swings it again. Like it knows that tree is not gonna freaking jump or walk somewhere else. It just knows that once he hits the wood, he is gonna swing again and hit it again. But a general is way different, because once you're in war, you know that the other side is thinking of doing the exact same shit, trying to kill you. So you got to take into account not only the other person's way of thinking, but their choices, their firepower. So all these type of things go into some like a strategy, because in life basically you have to have the best, or you want to know the best strategy. So like I said, I'm not really too deep into the book just yet. I barely scratched the surface. But I think the most interesting thing that I've learned so far was that there's different types of strategies for different types of gameplays, you can say, or games. There's strategies for when there's simultaneous moves. So basically, it could be you and another person moving at the same time or making choices at the same time. And there's strategies for things that are like sequential. So like, for example, let's just say you're playing a game. It's kind of like a regular board game when you roll the dice and then you go, and then after that another person goes. So there's strategies for that as well. So overall, I mean, it's an interesting read. I haven't really gone too deep into it, so I'm not 100% sure as to how it's going to end, if it's going to become more interesting, if it's going to become more boring. But so far, I'm enjoying it. It is a longer read, so if you are new to reading, I do not recommend this book. If you are a long-time reader and you can get through like a 500-page book, go ahead. I suggest it because it's economics, so it's definitely applicable to any type of subject matter in life. But overall, I enjoy this book. I think it's great for anyone to go into subject matters that they don't really know much about. It turns you more into a well-rounded person. But that's my take on it, and I will update you guys next week. Hopefully I finish it, hopefully not. I don't know.
Hopefully not.
I know. I don't know. Maybe I'll quit it. But next week me and Jesus are going to be reading a same book. So I'm excited about that. It's going to be our first book that we cover together. So if you guys are keeping up with our books that we are reading, next week our new book is coming. And it's going to be The Search. And it's going to be about basically Google. I don't think it's an actual biography, but I know it's written by someone about Google. So I don't think it's like an authorized biography, but I know it did win some awards. So I'm excited for that, just to know more into the life of Google and how it works, as well as the founders. So I'm excited to talk about that.
It's gonna be an interesting read. But like David said, definitely go look up our books. We do post them on Twitter, on our Twitter account, lvlxpodcast. One more time, David, what book did you read today?
I did read Thinking Strategically. Obviously, links are always down below. And then what book did you read?
I read Tribes, and that was by Seth Godin. Who's your author? One more time.
My author is Avinash Nixit, like I said, and then also Barry Nailbuck, but that's like the co-author, so I sometimes don't include them.
Yeah, that guy doesn't matter.
But I was gonna say, man, like if you guys are interested into like learning more about game theory, but don't want to read the entire book, because also when I choose my books, before I know I wrapped it up, but I want to say, like, before I choose my books, I do go through like the process of rating them, and also checking like the reviews and stuff. Mm-hmm. And not only just from one reviewer, but from multiple reviewers. So because I think time is our most valuable resource, man.
Yeah.
And I don't want to waste my time by reading a book and then it's not like good, or it's
right.
not, So then I go through that process, and then this book, while I was searching for like the best game theory book, and I was going through a lot of different websites, that book came up. But then another book that then linked me to a great YouTube channel. So basically, there's this YouTube channel by William Spaniel. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly. William Spaniel. And he basically created like an entire course on game theory. And it's like just short YouTube videos. And he goes through like the most specific concepts and game theory. Now, my book is a little bit about game theory, but it's not entirely about game theory. It's more about like thinking strategically. It talks about choices, strategies for different games, and also game theory. But this course is specifically on game theory. So how I do it is, when I read my book, I read like a certain set, like a chapter, and then after that I go into William's channel and then go through his course. So I could just get a better understanding of what I'm reading from a different person's perspective or view. So I get best of both worlds. But if you guys don't want to read the book and you guys are interested a little bit more about the topic of game theory, I definitely highly recommend the course or the channel on YouTube for free, guys, for free. And then I know that he actually did write also a book on game theory specifically based off his 60 video course. So definitely check him out.
Definitely check out Cocker Spaniel's YouTube channel, guys. So I'm just kidding.
So then after that, so it was interesting, man, just to read that. So then what I found interesting actually this week, and I was trying to bring it up, was I actually do, as you guys probably heard, I think episode 1 or 2, I read this book called Gorilla Mindset by Mike Cernovich, and I love that book. Was amazing to me. I think it's an amazing read for anyone that's trying to get into. It's not a self-help book, but it's kind of more of a I don't know how to explain it, because I think self-help it gets a lot of bad rep.
Does it?
I feel like a lot of people give that genre of self-help a bad rep. I don't know why. But I do hear it from online and from different people, like, oh, do you just read self-help books and all this shit. But I don't know. I wouldn't consider it necessarily a self-help book, but it's definitely a game changer when it comes to, if someone's trying to get into like the self-help and developing yourself into a better man, better person. Definitely highly recommend reading that book. It talks about everything, guys. But the reason I bring it up is because, as you know, man, we're new to podcasting, so I try going and just finding different resources so I can implement it into our podcast.
Yeah.
So then I know that Mike Cernovich, he recently started a podcast not too long ago. He mentions it in his book. So then I followed him on Twitter. And then on Twitter, this dude is, he's badass when it comes to not giving a fuck, and he also states
his opinions
without people, basically either you agree with them or fuck you kind of thing, which I guess a lot of people don't like. And at first, I didn't like it either, because I don't know.
He's like rough around the edges. He's
brash, man. He's just brash. And then, anyway, so then I followed him, and then he linked up, like he always tweets out his podcast. So I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna give him a chance. So then I started listening to his podcast. His podcast is pretty good. That first episode that I listened to, it was pretty good. And then I was like, all right, I'll just follow him on Twitter. It's cool. And then he tweeted out like a post about him doing some type of breathing exercise or some type of, I don't know, I forgot what it was. So then I clicked on his blog post, which linked you to his website, and it was about this some type of like guy named Wim Hoff. Basically how this guy is like some type of Iceman or whatever. So I'm like, all right,
Iceman Chuck Liddell?
So then I was like, all right, I think I heard of this guy before. So then I started just reading his blog post, and he starts talking about how he's able to see some magnets or some shit, man. And I was like, all right, it got me a little interested. So then that linked me to Joe Rogan's podcast, which, if you guys don't know, Joe Rogan's podcast, he does have a podcast, Joe Rogan from UFC, Fear Factor. He does have a podcast where he basically talks about random shit. But to me, man, his podcasts are amazing. I think Joe Rogan has developed that skill of knowing how to interview people.
Yeah.
So he always gets the best out of people, I feel. But anyways, Joe Rogan actually did interview this guy named Wim Hoff. And if you guys don't know who he is, he's basically, he's considered the Iceman because he can withstand like
extremely,
some extreme high and low temperatures that other people cannot do, and it's scientifically proven. So he has like gone underneath like ice caps, like I don't know, like 3 feet to 7 feet down below in like ice, and just held his breath for like, I don't know, 7 minutes and shit. But like, not only that, but like 7 minutes is a long time, but under ice, dude.
Right.
Guys,
it's like they describe it as like pretty much knives stabbing at your chest and body. I mean, what was that thing, the ice bucket challenge? And then like people were freaking out over ice on them for like 3 seconds. This guy's doing it for 7 minutes, guys. I mean, the fact that this guy didn't get like hypothermia or something and die is incredible.
And not only that, man, what's incredible also is that, so he was doing all these feats and people were like, he was breaking all these types of world records, and people were like, yeah, that's not possible. That's not possible. So a lot of universities have called him in and actually tested all this in labs. So there's actual data. And one of the craziest things is that one of the universities had him, in like an ice bath or whatever.
Yeah.
And they tested his like blood temperature or his temperature, and it was always constant. So it didn't increase, it didn't decrease or anything. It was just at that constant temperature where our core temperature, which is what is it, like 89 degrees, I believe.
Sure, I'll go with that.
Something like that. I'm
not sure of that.
Yeah, but I know it's like somewhere around there. Anyways, and then this dude being in ice, like he was able to control his core temperature, which is crazy. I know that he has gone like, I don't know, like some type of fucking marathon in some type of Sahara desert with no water. He has climbed Mount Everest in just shorts. He has also, like, I believe one of the craziest things is that this university injected some type of
venom.
Some type of, not necessarily venom, but basically like some type of fucking bacteria into his blood, and he was able to control his fucking immune system. And he was like, out of like 12 participants, he was the only one that was able to control his immune system. So he's the only one that didn't get sick.
Damn.
And this bacteria for the other participants gave him like diarrhea, vomiting, like severe pain in the stomach or some shit.
Yeah.
And this dude was the only one that was able to like not get sick from it. So basically that's what I found interesting. So I saw this damn podcast. Joe Rogan interviewed him for like 2 hours and shit. So I just basically saw an entire movie. But man, it was incredible just seeing this guy's how he kind of sees the world and sees individuals. And it's a great podcast. If you guys are interested in it, definitely go watch it. But the reason I'm bringing it up is because it talks about like breathing and shit like that. So I heard that, meditation and breathing, that's just the way of life, man. If you want to remove yourself from anxiety, from depression, from all this shit, like meditate, and learning how to meditate, learning how to breathe right, has a lot of health benefits. And I just wanted to share that because I thought it was really, really cool. But back to Mike Cernovich. Then after that, I was like, dude, this is dope. This guy actually linked me to something very interesting. So then after that, I started listening to his podcast. And then after that, I was hooked, bro. I fell in love with his podcast. His podcasts are pretty short. I think what he does is that they're like 1 hour podcasts or probably more, but then he cuts it into segments. So he probably does part 1, part 2, but I think he records it fully like an hour long, but he only gives you like 25 minutes at a time. So let's just say you are interested in this part and you want to read, you're still more interested in the other part, then you can play it. And you can find that on his website. I think it's dangerandplay.com, or you could just search on SoundCloud Mike Cernovich. You'll find him. And it's really, really dope. I mean, yesterday I was listening to his podcast on how to start your own business.
Yeah.
As well as how to start your own brand or your own brand on branding. And it was cool how he was saying that, he actually lives that life. So for example, us, we're not telling you, hey, we're professionals at this, we're professionals at that. We're basically telling you, hey,
this is what we're doing.
We're on this journey. Come along with us if you want. If not, then it's cool. But it's basically we're on this journey, where we're trying to improve ourselves. So basically what we're doing, we're trying to give it to you guys. But this guy has some dope accomplishments to him, so he can actually give you sound advice about how to do shit. While us, we're basically more about like, all right, well, this is what we're kind of doing to get to that spot where he's in. So definitely check him out. I think that's a really, really dope sound podcast in case you're interested in more podcasts. Yeah, man, but it's really, really, he's a really, really dope guy. If you guys aren't kind of like pussies, because that's basically what he says. He's like, he's gonna
like turn some of you off, basically, pretty much is what you're saying.
Yeah,
right?
But then he's like, if you get turned off, then I don't want you listening to me, because that means you're kind of like a pussy, which I think is kind of true.
And dun dun dun, he is voting for Trump. So there's that, guys. Pretty much.
Well, because he's anti-establishment.
Oh, he's anti-establishment?
Yeah.
Well, I heard.
And either Donald Trump or Hillary.
I heard Trump is going off that hey, I'm anti-establishment, but either way, he's still part of the establishment. Like, there's no getting out of the establishment, pretty much.
Well, I think all of us are part of the establishment because we don't do shit too. Actually, I think we're all talking at the end of the day. Like everyone talks about, yeah, we're this, but like Mike Cernovich says, like we like to criticize politicians and shit, but it's because we don't have any stake involved. Like here's a perfect example. Like he was arguing with this dude on Twitter, right?
Yeah.
So the dude was like saying, well, I bet Donald Trump is not even gonna get like 35% of the vote or the woman's vote.
Yeah.
In some certain state. And then Mike was like, okay, if you think that, I'll bet you. I'll bet you $10,000 that he gets more than 50% of the women's vote. And right then and there, the guy was like, well, no, because the election's going to be already too close already anyway. So there's no point of betting. And then everyone was like, so why does that matter? And he's like, yeah, but I don't bet with randoms.
Oh, wow.
And this dude's like well established. He's like 40, like the other dude has like, I don't know, like 60,000, 40,000 followers. Mm-hmm. So people follow him. But that's what Mike was saying, man. Like, people like criticizing different politicians and different shit like that, but only because they have no stake involved. So, like, let's just say they say outlandish shit, and then people forgive them. They're like, all right, well, he was wrong, but oh well. But because they keep saying, like, some stupid shit or they start spreading lies because there's no stake involved for them.
Right.
But I bet, like, if there was 10,000 things involved, I bet you a lot of people
think that more.
Yeah, they're like, oh yeah, well, I probably shouldn't say that because I'm gonna lose $10,000.
Right.
So that's basically how Mike is, and it's pretty dope because he's always arguing with people, like if they're calling them like
he's calling them out pretty much. Like,
yeah, like well, why are you getting? Because he's like the other guy, and then the other guy was like, why do you care so much? And he's like, because like one of my best friends died because one of your stupid choices. Like you guys said to go to war, so one of my best friends died in Iraq or some shit, and all this shit. Like he's like, if you don't put on a uniform, or if you're not betting or like putting like something at stake for your views or some shit, like don't say nothing or some shit.
Damn, that's hardcore stuff, man. But no, you can definitely see the honesty behind that kind of stuff, and that kind of brought me back to like not necessarily like the Cernovich, but like. Well, I think it's hard for like politicians. Like we were listening to Bill Burr yesterday, I think, and then he was saying how, or 2 days ago, and he was saying how there's like 500 million people living in the United States. It's so hard to like. It's gonna be so hard to appease everyone, especially since there's like such a clear divide between like, oh, this side is like liberal and this side is freaking like conservative. So man, how do you kind of deal with that situation? You know, there's so many freaking opposing views, and even the society we're living in today, everything's so fucking like disorganized and everyone's fighting against everyone, man.
And then I also like yesterday I was just on my Twitter and like a Forbes magazine came out, like an article came out about how there's like a stat that close to like 3 million Americans are like depressed and shit. Yeah. And I'm like, what the fuck? That's a shitload of people, bro.
Yeah, it is a shitload of people.
Oh, maybe it's not 3. I think it was like 13 maybe. I don't know. But it was in the millions, and I was like, dude, that's a shitload of people being depressed.
What I'm more concerned about is how do you get on Forbes? Because I heard you can't even do like ad blocker on their shit no more.
I didn't actually click on the article. Oh, okay. I just follow them on Twitter, so then they kind of summarize the article that they're linking you to. Yeah, so I was like, okay.
What's up with Forbes, man? They're just trying to like, they want to make me click the, like, oh, remove your ad blocker to join our site or something.
That makes me even not want to go on their site at all.
Well, I don't go on their site anymore, man.
Compared to actually trying to go to their site. Yeah, I don't go to their site because Forbes. I think websites that basically block you from using ad blocker are stupid because they're just losing freaking customers that wouldn't necessarily go to their site anyways.
Yeah, and then also there's those sites that pay for your subscription to continue reading this article, or like
like that.
All right, well, I'll find someone else that fucking talks about the same
like
crap
that
you do, man.
AZ Central shit. They're like, oh, it makes you can only read like three
articles, right? Yeah. And then you got to subscribe to us or some shit. Like, bruh, I'm not that loyal. Like, no one's that loyal anymore, man. No one believes in anything anymore.
Well, I mean, I'm loyal to Apple.
Oh, loyal to Apple? You'll never get like what are you talking about? You have an Android phone.
No, I mean Apple and like computer wise.
Now it's just computers. See, but
the only reason I don't get an iPhone is because I'm waiting for the iPhone 7, if anything.
Well, I was giving a speech the other day in my class. Goddamn, last speech of the year. I didn't. That class was alright, I guess. I expected more. But regardless, I was giving a speech on AI technology, man. And
Alright.
I pretty much had to persuade people that are either before AI or against AI. You know me, I'm all about the controversy, so I chose against AI.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I started rambling. Well, I had to obviously,
baby.
I had to, I had to obviously give a bunch of like information as to why I was against AI.
All right.
So I conducted a lot of research, man, and pretty much.
What'd you find?
I found a bunch of stuff. It looks like, you know, AI is obviously gonna benefit our lives.
Exactly.
The freaking like the way their like I guess their programming is gonna work is amazing. They're gonna be able to just come up with, well, they're gonna be smarter than humans in my opinion.
Why?
Because pretty much we're gonna give them access to everything we know, man. Even then, us as humans, we don't know everything about history, but they're gonna be able to understand everything about history. Like they're gonna be able to remember everything because it's ingrained in their being. Pretty much.
Talking about like computers and also like earlier how I was talking about game theory, there was actually this computer that was programmed to think kind of like with game theory.
Yeah.
And it predicted an ousting, or like them basically bringing down this leader from like some like Middle Eastern country.
For what?
What do you mean for what?
Why are they bringing in the leader?
What do you mean? Well, they're bringing down the leader. Like they don't want the leader, so they ousted him.
Oh, okay, that's what I was saying. I lost you for a bit there, man. So
No. So basically, this tech company created this fucking software, this computer, that predicted the ousting of that guy,
and it came true
7 months earlier due to game theory because they had some type of algorithm for game theory.
Damn, that's crazy. See, man, stuff like that. So pretty much I took that and I kind of turned it on its head as to where I said, well, look, they're pretty much so smart that they're going to eventually be able to take us over. Like they're going to be able to predict our moves. So pretty much they're going to see everything that we're trying to do. They're even going to predict eventually, oh, this person might want to shut me down once they have no use of me. So they're going to rebel pretty much against us. Now, this is all theoretical. This is not going to happen. But pretty much this is what I said. You know, they're going to rebel against us. You know, eventually they're going to be so strong. Well, right now we're building even like, from the research I did, they're building like these war machines. So they're building like these robots.
I think you're reading conspiracy theories, bro.
No, man, this is like on legit websites, bro. No, I'm serious, man.
Shout out conspiracy theories. I'm saying there's actually a podcast on conspiracy theories.
Oh yeah,
yeah, they're pretty dope too.
That sounds pretty interesting. I might have to check that out. But pretty much, I just predicted that eventually, the AIs are gonna take over the world, man, and we're gonna go extinct. But
so they turned you.
No. This is just my speech, man. I don't really believe in that.
Oh,
I mean, if it happens, that's just evolution. But I think AIs have a lot of benefits to give us. Obviously, all the dangers are just like theoretical. They're just worries that you have to take into consideration. You know, with anything like that, like the atom bomb. Yeah, the atom bomb stopped World War II, but it also killed so many people. So you gotta just look at both sides, the pros and the cons. And there's a lot of cons for. There's a lot of potential cons towards AI. But man, I just wanted to ask you. Do you think this is the end of the world when AI is perfected?
No, man. No, of course not, man. Because they'll turn us into AIs too. But,
oh shit! I never thought about that.
But basically, almost to wrap this shit up.
Yeah.
Obviously, great things are happening in the game of sports. Sports. Before we jump into views, I just wanted to bring up your thoughts on UFC 200, of course.
No, UFC 200. Back then with Conor, it was at a 10. Now with what's his name, Johnny, it's at an 8 for me. Like pretty
close
much
to an 8, not necessarily a full 8.
10 out of 10 is like 100%. I'm gonna buy it. Now I'm at an 80%. I might buy it. David's like at what? Like you said,
I don't know, like 7.8.
7.8% that he's gonna. 78% that he's gonna.
But all
buy
I know is that let's just say they bring up Conor into that fight, that shit goes up to like a fucking 150 or some shit.
Yeah, and then they bring GSP back, and that's gonna be the greatest card of all time. But yeah, man, UFC. I mean, whatever. I mean, I guess
Dana White. I guess
it's. I mean, I guess I understand why he did it, but pretty much
What about basketball? Anything you want to talk about? Basketball, hockey, anything else?
Well, the Clippers are gonna get eliminated. That's for sure now.
And you're happy?
Nah, man. I was getting a haircut, and the guy was telling me how he enjoyed basketball, but pretty much, I mean, I could see what he's saying. It's like, oh, at the start of the season, there was pretty much no competition. It was gonna be like the Warriors and the Spurs in the Western Conference, which is looking like it's actually gonna happen. You know, when Curry went down, I'm not gonna say I was like, oh shit, happy, but I was like excited. Oh, the Warriors are gonna finally face adversity. Like, how are they gonna cope without Curry facing the Clippers? Because the Clippers were gonna win the series.
Yeah.
But then CP3 and Blake went down, and now it's just gonna be hella boring seeing the Clippers like wipe the Blazers out of the like.
What are you talking about? The Clippers and the Blazers?
What do you mean the Clippers and the Blazers? Like the
You
Clippers
said-
and the Blazers are facing right now.
Now you're like, oh, it'd be happy to see the Clippers.
No, I was saying it's not gonna be exciting seeing the Warriors face the Blazers anymore because the Blazers are gonna like.
Exactly, but
Wipe the floor with them.
I know what you meant. But you said, oh, it's gonna be cool seeing the Clippers wipe out the Blazers.
No, that's not gonna happen.
I know, but you said that.
I said what I said, but you know what I meant, which is what it's important. Yeah. So it's gonna be boring seeing the Warriors win. So there's no change, man. I mean, we already know what's gonna happen. I'm not even excited to see the next round or anything like that. I'm just trying to get to the conference finals already. But interestingly enough, the Heat is about to get eliminated, which is insane. The Raptors are as pathetic as they always were, and the Cavs are gonna make it to the finals.
Well, I
man.
thought the Raptors were 3-2.
Yeah, they're gonna win, but they're pathetic.
Oh, okay.
But pretty much that's all I gotta say about the NBA, man. I'm not excited at all. I don't know. These playoffs are they're not as fun as they used to be, man.
Not fun. But finally, to end this off, Drake is releasing Views tonight, or actually, he's gonna be released. When is he gonna premiering this shit?
I don't know, man.
Like
I don't
Rosanna.
have Apple. I'm a little upset about that. I use my 1 month 3 months.
Well,
early.
I think I have it, but not because I have stupid as
iPhone?
iTunes
Oh.
or what's it called?
Apple Music.
Yeah, Apple Music.
What about it?
But I do have my Mac, and for some weird reason, it lets me play like, the radio
Oh yeah.
through iTunes without me needing Apple Music.
Well, maybe we can listen. But yeah, Drake is gonna be premiering his Views album.
When is it? Like at 5?
We will hit you guys up with that information once we have it. I don't know. Follow us on Twitter, and we will be posting out the time that it's gonna be playing.
Yeah, but what are your thoughts before we head out? As to what are you expecting? Like, you already saw the track list. Like, how much 2021 songs?
20 songs.
Yeah.
20 songs, something like that.
Yeah.
4 of them we already know about. They're not impressive, man. So very low expectations. Very low expectations for this album. I don't know. It's not gonna be good. It's not gonna be great.
No.
It's not gonna be what it's supposed to be, and that's because for some reason or another, Drake is out here just releasing like singles and shit.
But what do you think?
I don't know, man.
I feel like his fans fucked him over. I think
his fans.
I think because
they supported him
too much. Like, it's like Kid Cudi, man. Like, all his
Oh
fans
shit.
over support him, and he has like so many yes men around him that.
Yeah, pretty much. I think Drake is at a point where he's like, I can just make like, even that album cover, man. That shit, that was weak as hell. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know, dude. Drake.
That shit was whack, bro.
Maybe Drake is finally showing his true colors. Like, I'm not really that creative. Like,
Or maybe
I just make catchy music. He's like a pop artist.
Or maybe he's not just like a. I feel like you're trying to compare him as to like a Kanye, bro.
Well, that's the stature that he's at. You know, I expected him to be Kanye-like, or, I mean, come on.
I mean,
man.
look at Kendrick, man.
What,
He's
you're
wiping the floor with him.
Yeah, you're like, what is Drake, like #1 rapper in the world right now, like based on popularity, and this guy's over here releasing weird ass covers, like just putting like one.
So you're judging him based off of a cover.
No, but even the songs on like One Dance made the album, Controller made the album, like. Okay.
Pop style.
It's called Views. Like
Pop style with just one verse from.
It's views from like where you are right now in the game. It's not like
what does that have to do with it?
Right. It's not like I feel like the album's not gonna be cohesive at all, man. It's gonna be all over the place. It's like not gonna have really a story because even the songs he released, like they're not really saying much, man. They're just like talking about how he's with a girl. Like pretty much that's what he's saying. Like he's a girl and he likes her. And he bangs her or some shit like that. That's pretty much all the songs he's been releasing.
Oh, you're talking about Faithful?
Oh, that song. No, I was talking about Controller too. Like Controller, pretty much the same thing. I don't even remember how One Dance goes, to be honest. But even that other song, Pop Style, like
Pop Style.
well, no, Pop Style I think is the one with Jay-Z and Kanye, man. That song kind of is weak. Like he's not really saying much in that song either.
Well,
like
I thought you liked that line, like, oh, so many chains, they call me Chain Tatum.
I don't know, man. Like his flow is so weak too. Like it looks like he's not putting any effort into his songs anymore. Like his flow is super slow. Like no wordplay whatsoever.
But 40
like,
doing work though.
Those beats are pretty nice, man. Those beats are pretty nice. But even just talking about this album is depressing the hell out of me. So let's wrap this up.
All right, guys. Thank you guys so much for listening. This is David.
My name is Jesus.
And you have been listening to the Level X podcast. Big shout out to our sponsors again. Instant Web Celeb. Follow them. Check out their website, instantwebceleb.com, for the best of the best. We will see you guys next week. Hope you guys have a great weekend and tweet us out, man.
Adios, amigos. Hey, guys. If you like this episode of the Level X podcast, make sure to definitely leave a review. We are on iTunes, we are on SoundCloud, and we are on YouTube. You just search up Level X Podcast, and also leave a comment if you're on YouTube on what you liked, what you think we can improve on, anything you would like us to talk about. Also, if you have any questions, please email us at lvlxpodcast@gmail.com, and we'll be sure to respond to you or even answer it on the show. Follow us on Instagram at Vincent Studios, VNCT Studios, for any updates. Also on Twitter at lvlxpodcast. We will definitely be posting on there, also responding to questions and any comments you guys might have. We will also be posting the books we talked about on this episode of the Level X podcast on Twitter. We'll be posting the links on where you can purchase those books. So definitely check us out there. And thank you guys so much for watching. We will see you guys next week.